Um, I had kind of an interesting experience on Thursday or Friday night, somewhere around there. My sister called and said, my daughter-in-law is visiting. And she says, well, my sister's been working on family history, particularly in recording memories of her mother-in-law. She's trying to get everybody in the family to write their memories of their mother-in-law, and they're going to print them up and distribute them to everybody. And my sister's in-laws and her children, with one exception, well, are all not members of the church. And but anyway, her daughter-in-law was there and visiting, and her daughter-in-law said, "Gee, this is fun that you're doing all of this. I wish I knew more about my dad's side of the family." Her parents had divorced when she was rather young, and she didn't really know very much about her grandparents or their sides of the family. So she said, "But I don't even know how to start that or anything." And Alice said, "Oh, well, let's just look up and see if we can get his obituary. If your grandpa's dead." So Kristen wrote down the names that she knew and the dates that she knew, and so Alice knew to do an obituary search on Google, and they didn't find one. They noticed that the mortuary had retired it, so it wasn't there. And Alice didn't have resource, and neither do I at home, for obituaries.com or genealogy bank or anything. So Alice called me and said, what should we do next? And I said, well, first of all, look him up on FamilySearch and see if he's there. Well, he wasn't. And so I said, I wonder if she remembers where he was buried. And so Kristen said, oh yeah, he was buried in the Riverside Cemetery in Payette, Idaho. And so I said, well, let's just look on Find a Grave and see what we can find on in the cemetery. See, so we can find, if we do a cemetery search for Riverside Cemetery in Fayette, Idaho, and see what we find. And so we did that, Riverside Cemetery. And if you say Fayette instead of Payette, you never find it. You have to make sure you get Payette. So Payette County, Idaho, Riverside Cemetery, did a search, and it came up. So I said, well, let's look not only just for him, but in case his name's spelled different or something, let's search for all of the people with his last name. And so we did that. And lo and behold, there's a whole lot of people named Roland in this cemetery. So we looked up Ernest William Roland, who was born in 1900, who was her grandfather. And lo and behold, he's there. And it lists his, no, wrong one. Darrell William Roland was who we were looking at. And it listed Darrell William Roland. And it told us that his wife was Arabelle, which was correct, and told us who his parents were. And so that was good news. And by the way, every step along the way, we checked with the censuses or whatever other records would confirm what we found. But so then we did a search for William Ernest Roland we looked for them on FamilySearch. And sometimes when I tried to save these things, I didn't save quite the one I wanted. I wanted to save his person card for you to see. And his person card shows his name as being Emil. So we think that whoever entered it did not know a lot about him, because his middle name, according to the other records that we found, was Ernest. But nonetheless, the middle name is the same. And so we looked him up, and and it lists the same parents as were in the Find a Grave. We did the census check and found out that, according to the census, his name is William Ernest. We checked the sources that were listed here, and they are census records, and they verified that. But they told us who he was and that much about him. So then we said, well, let's look at his pedigree chart and see what it says. So we clicked on View Tree, and I'm going to go away from the fan chart. Well, we can look at the fan chart. That's what his fan chart shows up for 7 generations. So now, although Kristen doesn't know her grandfather, she knows his pedigree chart for this many generations and further back. So then she looked up her grandmother and her great-grandmother, and they were also listed on Find a Grave, and we followed through on the sources and other censuses to make sure this really was who we were looking for. And so we went to look at her tree. Well, we wanted her tree. We didn't want this. So how do I go back? That's something else from that screen. How to go back is something something new for me to do. So this is her great-grandmother's tree. She kept going to the end as she went to the horizontal, the landscape pedigree chart, and went back to arrows and followed through arrows. She kept going through and farther back and finally came to Charlemagne. And she and Alice were just absolutely blown away that in half an hour, they were able to sort through and find this family tree of her grandfather and grandmother that she barely remembers. And so what a unique experience that was for her. Now, we could have found some other information on Ancestry, but because FamilySearch is one shared tree, everything linked together quickly, and she was able to do this. My goodness, wasn't that a fun experience on Friday night or Thursday night or whenever it was we had it. So I wanted to share that with you, and I hope that if you haven't had a similar experience with a friend, that you do have such a similar experience with a friend. Now, any comments before we go on to memories?
I have found more people on Find a Grave than anywhere, well, besides FamilySearch. But Find a Grave, I've even found headstones with parents' names on it of children who died. So it's really cool.
Isn't it cool? I think it is a resource that we much underuse.
And I found a relative who's not even a member back in New Jersey, did all this genealogy, and she put it on Find a Grave, who's related to who.
Wonderful.
And it was wonderful. And then she passed away. But I got to thank her before she did.
Well, and I'm glad she put it on before she did.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. What a resource it is and what fun it is. I solved a problem once. I had pretty much been able to narrow down my answer with circumstantial evidence, but when I found the biography, there were 2 men. Which one was the right man to be the father of Catherine Ann? And when I read the bio of the 2 men on Find a Grave, it was crystal clear that it was not Cornelius. And so we can learn a whole lot about Find a Grave. Now we're going to talk more about Find a Grave and similar sites the week before Memorial Day, so that we can make Memorial Day plans to go look for our family. Growing up, we lived in Texas and we didn't have any family in Texas, and Memorial Day was not visiting graves on Memorial Day was not part of our family tradition. Our family tradition was when we went to Mancos, Colorado, we went to the cemetery, and 6 generations of my family are buried there. So we always did that, but I just had never dawned on me, even when I moved to Utah and had been here for a couple of decades, that I had family buried in Utah to visit on Memorial Day. And now we've kind of have made that a tradition to go visit graves, even though there are not too many and they're scattered from Parowan to Springville. We still try to go see them. Okay, so this is Mother's Day, and I wanted to talk on Mother's Day about memories. Memories specifically of their mother. This is my mother. I'm glad I have a picture of my mother here on the chart, here on her page. I wish I had more. Sometimes I like different pictures better there. I have put in quite a few photos of her, as have others of her children. Before it was available on FamilySearch or Ancestry, I uploaded a copy of her marriage license, which was good to have there, and then stories. And then so far we don't have any audios of my mother. But so let's start out talking about memories and photos. Now, I have a couple of new photos that I could add of my mother. And I got sidetracked with Mother's Day phone calls and don't remember where I found this one picture, but let's just see if we can. Gee, I thought I put that in already. I was thinking about, I can't follow that and through fast enough for the lesson. My mother remembered, my mother's mother died when my mother was still just starting school. And so I'm amazed at how much she does remember about her mother. But she did remember that her mother had a special plate that had roses on it. And so, well, let's just look on my grandmother's page. That's where we're going to find that, I think. So I'm going to go on down to my grandmother's page. So my grandmother had this special set of plates, 12 plates. And she must have used them for special occasions, because that's how my mother would remember it. And so here is a picture of that plate. And so it is Gladys Michael's special rose plate. And one of the things that we talked about last week, as we kind of did an introduction, is that nowadays we can put on FamilySearch an audio to explain what a memory is. So I did that with my grandmother's plate. And I don't know if this is going to come through. If it comes through, wave your hand. But and I maybe didn't come through yet, John. I didn't turn it on.
It's there.
It's there, but can you hear it? If you hear it, wave your hand. You can't hear it. Okay. Well, the memory that I have of this rose plate is...
What you need to do is, when you share, there's a little box at the bottom that says add your video or whatever on the share screen box. You have to go out of share screen and click it again, and there's a little box to put audio on. Can you see it? There's
share
two
screen.
Right at the bottom, two little boxes.
Share sound.
Yeah.
Ah,
Video. Okay.
okay. So let me see if I can take it back to the beginning. One summer evening while we were living in Midland, Texas, a salesman came to the door. He showed my mother a rose plate and asked if she had ever seen it before. And she said, yes, that is my mother's rose plate. He said, yes, and I am your uncle, Walter Sherman Michael, your mother's brother. My grandmother had 6 of these plates. What happened to the other 5, I don't know. But this one made its way home to my mother, which she always cherished. Her mother had this set of 6 plates, which she used for special occasions before she died in 1921. And now I have that rose plate. So I am really happy that we can do this now, that we can add memories. And I think that the next time I record one, I'm going to do a little bit better job of planning ahead of time what I'm going to say. But isn't that nice that we can do that? If we go back to my mother's page, I wanted to just point out a couple of things on my mother's page about a couple of things to talk about in regards for us to remember as we're doing memories. So let me see if I can get back to my mother. So when we have our page of memories like this, we sometimes are going to come up with, whoa, a red exclamation point. When we come up with the red exclamation point, that means that something could be done to enhance this. Let's say in this case, we should add a title. So I'm going to call it Esther's Trousseau tea announcement. And now when I say that, that little exclamation point is going to go away. But I'm also going to get a note that says, tag the image to tag Esther Wilden. So if I click on this, it's going to say, is this Esther Wilden? And I'm going to say yes. Then I'm going to say, it says, who else is in this memory? And I'm going to say Mark. And if I spell it correctly, it'll pull up his name. And it also talks about her stepmother. So I can put in her stepmother's name and mark her. If other people had attended and were in this article, I could do the same, and then they would be tagged with them as well. I could event, date, and place. I could put in that this was June the 25th, 1941, and other information so that others would know about it. What?
Soon to be the bride of Mark Everett.
Oh, absolutely. Let's put in my dad. And I'm going to go down. Well, I'm not being able to see on my screen, but there we go. And it says that the event day is June 25th. So I can add June 25th, 1941. And then it says, please put it in this order. And I say, sure. So that is how you can make them, give them a little bit more information. Now, public and private. is something that we didn't have this option in the past. And I really am pleased that they have that. How many times have you put in a memory and you said, but I really don't want Google to pick it up and put it on Google? Because if you leave a memory as public, Google can pick it up and put it in Google Images. If you click it on private, then only you will be able to see it. So I think that that is something that we need to think about if we're putting something kind of private on, is that maybe we want to make it private. My mother-in-law has a marriage announcement that I don't think she would want everybody to know about. And I could go ahead and publish that on FamilySearch as long as I made it private, because then it would only be a record for me and not for others. Now I want to talk, I'm going to go to a different person's page if I can figure out how to do it quickly enough. I'm going to have to leave memories and go back to Charles's aunt who recently died. I want to follow through with you how you could get a picture of this person as a memory on their page. So the first thing that you need to do is figure out how to make your scanner work. Now we have scanners at the Family History Center that will either scan to the computer or scan to a flash drive. And if there is a flash drive port on the front of the printer, then you will know you can scan it and it will put the scanned image on the flash drive. For the scanner that scans to the computer at the Family History Center, there are instructions taped to the wall that explain how to use it. Now, for a few years, I was kind of flustered because I could not get my printer. I couldn't find the app so that I could figure out how to print, how to scan. Then I figured out that if I came down here where it says type here to search, if I typed in there the word scan, it would give me this connection to Windows Fax and Scan. And that is the scanning program that works with most HP printers, especially those that are all-in-one, that do scanning, faxing, and printing all in one machine, and boasts that. Now, I recently have gotten a new printer, and so the new printer has two ways to print. One is if I type the word scan, and then I choose this icon that looks like a scanner, or even better, if I use this icon that is down here. So that's what I'm going to use now. Now, when I click on that, it gives me these options, and I choose scan. And some of you are going to say, this is old hat, but maybe somebody will say, oh, that's new for me. This gives me the program that I deal with. So I'm going to want to scan a photo, so I'm going to say photo. It gives me the option of either scanning just a picture or scan the entire thing. I'm going to scan the whole thing. If you are scanning a black and white photo, choose color as your output, and you're going to get a more accurate picture of the scanning. And then it gives you the option of different dots per inch. I think it turns on at 150, and I usually scan photos at 600. Some of you might have other preferences that you use for your own scanning. And so then once I have set that the way that I want it, I choose the scan option and I wait a minute. And it is going to scan, and I am not seeing anything happening on my new printer and my, oh, now it's happening. Okay. So here is the picture that showed up. And this is the picture that I wanted. This is Charles's aunt that recently died. Now down here at the bottom, it tells me that it just gave a number to the photo. So I'm going to change that to Robertson family, Charles and Nancy, because it's when we were visiting. I have the option of scanning it as a PDF or as a picture. The picture would be the JPEG. I'm going to choose JPEG. If I was doing a document, I would probably do the JPEG. And it's going to give me the option of printing or saving or whatever for this picture. I'm going to choose save. Now I have in my, when I got my new printer, I opened up a new file under documents that's called scanning. And now when I scan, I'm going to use this when I scan documents or pictures in order to be able to keep them together in one place. And so then when I click save, then it's now going to be in that file. Now I can choose edit from this program, and it's going to give me the option of cropping it. And I'm going to want to crop this. I really don't want all of it showing. I mean, all that much white showing. So I'm going to move this up here. I'm going to keep the resolution that it already had. And if I wanted to add lettering or do a custom or turn it around or something else, I would be able to do it from this screen. And there's advantages to doing it from this screen as opposed to doing it from Windows Photoshop or Elements or one of the free programs that's available. But so that's what I'm going to do. And now I'm going to click done. Now I have that picture of her saved in that file. And this is a picture that I have loved, and sometimes because I didn't have it numbered right in my system, I had trouble finding it. But so this is Charles's, at this time she was probably only 89 years old, but she might have already been 90 by then. And Charles's two cousins, just older and just younger than him, that were his favorite cousins on his dad's side. And then us when we were visiting. If you just look a little bit at the walls, you can tell that Aunt Clarine did her own bit of ancestral memories keeping up on her walls. Okay, so now when I go to memories and I go to upload photo, and then I have to tell my computer where to look. So I'm going to look in documents and I'm going to look in scanning. And open it, and then choose Robertson family, and it doesn't look cropped there, does it? Let's see how it shows up on here, cropped. Now it says that it's still just processing. Sometimes when it says just processing, you can go ahead and open it up. And so now that I've opened it up, and I'll need to go back and do this and make sure it is cropped, and put Clarine Robertson with daughters and nephews, my husband says. And I think that we just might want to come down to the bottom and see if it lets us put in more details. And we would want to add here his age, her age, and whatever. And in this case, am I going to want to keep this private until Charles and his cousins we need to recognize the privacy rights of living people. So maybe I would want to keep that private because there's because there's living people still in the picture. Now I can go ahead and click on the image and add the names of the different people that are in the document, just like we talked about before. The next memory is stories, well, documents. What documents do you think would be important to put in memories? Unmute yourself and tell me what you put in sometimes in documents. Is that something any of you have done?
How about I break your fucking alarm, dude?
I've done marriage.
$50.
Doing
There's things that won't go in pictures because of the way that they're done. So sometimes I'll stick them in as a document if they won't go in photos.
Oh, okay. Angel, what have you put in under?
My,
I put in my grandma's recipes under hers.
Cindy, maybe if you mute yourself, Cindy, we won't hear your family. Go ahead. Thanks, Cindy, and go ahead, Angel.
I put my grandma's recipes, some of her favorite recipes in documents.
Wonderful. Now, do you think that memories is too sophisticated a place to put a memory? What do the rest of you think? My thought is it makes them human. It's the things that we loved about them, and it is part of their story and their life.
and it will be preserved.
And it's preserved, yes. My dad, in some of his stories, and his brothers in some of their stories, talk about how one of their favorite meals was macaroni and tomatoes. Well, how do you cook macaroni and tomatoes in such a way that it would have been their favorite? So I definitely think that ought to be in under documents. Absolutely. Any other things that you've sometimes put in documents? I think sources that are not available online is a good use of documents.
Now, I've also added, like achievements that they've had or an awards that they received.
Oh, that's a very good one. Very good one. Military awards, scouting awards, career awards, maybe even sometimes church recognitions. Good idea. Yes, Cindy.
So, my uncle sent me a little booklet my grandfather made when he was in the Navy during World War II. They researched the islands out in the South Pacific, and he helped make a booklet. So that made me think maybe I should scan that and put it on there.
I definitely think so. I definitely think so.
And then my son went on a mission out that area, so that was
really
kind of cool.
Fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, going to stories. What kind of stories have you put in as memories?
I put where my grandma saved me from drowning.
Oh my goodness.
Good start.
I think that's a very good one. Do you want to tell us that in 1 minute? Or are you going to just let us know that it happened?
Yeah.
You have to unmute yourself again.
She used to take us down to the lake with the bar soap, all us kids. And there was an underwater river at the bottom of the lake. So there was a kind of a drop off. And we were only allowed to go out to our chest. But I always pushed it, and I was over my shoulders. And then I dropped off that little ledge. And I came up twice, and the third time I just couldn't get up, and I couldn't break the surface of the water, where the air was. So I was ready to just drown, And all of a sudden, my grandmother's arm just shot out and grabbed me and pulled me in. And so she saved me.
Oh, wow. I
think I
definitely would
was
put that
7.
in.
I was either 7 or 8. I couldn't remember.
Well, that is definitely one that
So, and then my 7th child, he jumped into a pond up at girls' camp up at Benyon Creek over here. And I saw him come right up to the surface and not break the surface. And I knew exactly what was going on. So I jumped in there with all my clothes on to grab him and pull him out. So,
now you know what your grandma felt like.
yeah.
I think that some people want to only put in a story that is polished and ready to be printed and lots of details. And I am kind of a believer in sometimes short stories and short comments.
Well, that's also the private, you can private it and then go back and edit it a lot of times till.
Absolutely, you could. This is kind of a short story. It was a graduation gift that my mother specifically remembered. Gee, it's less than a page. But I think that by reading it, we learn a little bit more about my mother and what her life was like. To be graduating from high school during the Depression, nobody had any money, but her aunt took silk scraps and made her a gift for graduation. I definitely think that something like that is going to help us become closer to and know them better and love them better. So I definitely believe in that kind of a story. I can't imagine anything that you put in unless it would be something very, very negative that would not enrich what everybody will know about someone. I was intending to go to my grandfather's page. And maybe I've told you about this before, but I don't think that I had played it before. My grandfather was, he had no musical training, but he liked to sing and he taught himself how to play. And he always sang to us grandkids when we came to visit. And so he probably recorded this when he was no longer young. So here's my grandpa playing by ear with no music. And I hope we'll get soon to the point where he starts to sing.
Sweetheart of the mountain, with your body eye of blue. Again I say I love you. Birds sing all the day. Springtime in the Rockies, in the Rockies far away.
I think that all of his grandchildren that heard him sing this are going to have a very fond reminder and a very, very touching experience when they hear him. Another one of his songs here is he sings about Don't Kick My Dog. And he used to sing that to us all the time when we were little. And so that is a real connection. I think that also the opportunity to bear testimony so that your children and your grandchildren can know that you had a testimony of the gospel, that this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to do that. So I'm going to suggest that as another thing that you would want to do. As we research people, we find out a lot about them that is more than just the facts that are in a document. So I think that that's a big part of the value of the memories. Have you thought of any other memories that you'd like to bring up while we're talking about memories? No wonder this program didn't finish loading. Something's holding it up. I wanted you to realize that, and Photoshop Elements is not open easily. It's got lots of things in it that take a lot of space, but it is very nice. Well, now where did it even go? Photoshop Elements, there's free ones, and then there's Photoshop Complete that is very detailed. But Photoshop Elements is the editing program that we have at the Family History Center. And the computer and the program and the computer and the printer that do it are the ones that are in the back corner in the southeast corner. And if you've got a photo that needs editing, then experiment with what's there. There are free ones available, but I think I have felt more comfortable using Photoshop Elements than I have been some of the free ones that I've heard about. And this is what it looks like. You go to File, Open, and then tell the computer where to go in your files to find a picture, and you pull up the picture and the different things that you might want to do to the picture. This is one my sister sent me and she'd like me to see if I can get rid of some of the imperfections in the picture in it, and I haven't played with it much yet. But if you go to that Family History Center to practice with this or to play with it, Photoshop itself costs $200 or $300. Photoshop Elements is about $100. And so to be able to use it for free at the Family History Center is great. You can go when it's quiet in the Family History Center and fiddle with it as much as you want. On the wall at the Family History Center, next to that computer, and that is the printer that prints color laser that is beside, there is a chart on the wall that shows the different functions, and they're quite similar to the ones that are over here in this picture, and it tells you what the different icons do and give you ideas about how to use them. So when you are first wanting to experiment, you're going to want to read that chart. And Brother Roach fixed that chart for us, and that's why we have it posted on the wall next to the computer that has that program. And it's amazing what you can do without being an expert or taking a class. If you want to experiment, you'll be surprised and pleased at what you can do. So I hope that each of you will take an opportunity to do that. I also wanted to mention that our Family History Center now has a high-speed scanner that will scan a whole pile of photos at a time and do it just so fast you don't even have to get up and move them over to the printer and put them under the screen again or anything. You just push go and it goes. And this will be available to anybody that comes to the Family History Center when it's opened, or making an appointment with Diane to go before we open. And then she would have one of us go to be there at the Family History Center. Are we ready to start doing appointments like that, Diane?
Sure. I haven't. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I'm sure one of us could do that. Also, though, if anybody who's listening would like to volunteer to be a virtual consultant, we have our own Zoom account now, and Richard is looking at it to figure out how to arrange it where we can schedule everything ahead of time. And so I'm looking for volunteers right now. So far, I've got the Sparks from 2 to 4 on Sunday. And so I'm looking for more volunteers for virtual help. I know that's a little bit off the subject, but yes.
Well, technically my lesson's finished, so this is not off the subject. So the way that this would work is if Brother Smith thought I would go to the Family History Center if they were open, because I really need some help in figuring out what to do next. Or maybe if my sister's daughter-in-law was in town, and so they wanted to go to the Family History Center and do what we did on the phone the other night, then they would call up, and whoever was taking that shift would open up the Zoom and fix share screen so that they could share the person's screen together and help them out just as though they were sitting next to each other.
I'm also thinking that if they needed to look something up, they could let them know at that point, and maybe those people who are assigned for that shift would be willing sometime during the week to go look at one of the special collections that we have that only can be accessed there.
That would be wonderful. And so some of those collections are Fold 3, which is military records.
Newspapers.com, Genealogy Bank, and films that you can't, that say that they have the little key over them that you can't see unless you're there.
So we want, even though we're not really completely open, the building's not opened yet, this is something that we'd like to help people with. So if you hear somebody,
get everybody back in the idea of us being open, and so we can get used to having shifts, and then people can get used to being able to access those shifts. And even when we are open, if we can keep that Zoom account, maybe we could keep that open while people are there at the Family History Center as well. You know, that might be a way to help keep
people who couldn't come in or something. Yeah. Great idea. Great idea.
And Angel, if you're still there, I just want you to know that I love your idea. And if you got our email that Brother Patrick hasn't sent it out yet, but I sent out an email telling people that we're going to start randomly picking people to do a family history experience with them.
Oh, that's good. Oh, good.
I said there are 4 things. And Nancy, I asked Brother Tanner if we could send it out, the newsletter out in your stake, and he's going to ask the stake president and see, because I said there's 4 things to know. 1 is Nancy's class. 2 is that we're going to start the 5-minute family history. I'll do that for you, Nancy, right at 8. And then we're going to start the randomly picking people to give a family history experience, and then the Zoom thing. So
are you going to start tonight with the 5 minutes?
What's that?
Are you going to start tonight with the 5 minutes?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm not quite ready yet. So we're pretending that we're open. We're going to start acting that way, so we can be ready when the time comes.
When we are open, yeah. A few weeks ago, we had a lesson by a friend of Diane's, I forget his name, who told about how he has used Google Maps to map his family's family history. And so next week, we'll be exploring that more as I would use Google Maps to map my family history. And then after that, we will do learning more about names in stone and find a grave and how to go to a cemetery and find your ancestors. So we want to do that before Memorial Day. So that's what's coming up in our lesson.
You know that Google Maps thing is already on FamilySearch. There's a place on FamilySearch that will give you all that information already.
No, John, I don't know that.
Oh, okay.
I think it does have a little bit of mapping, but it doesn't do all of the things that are available.
This was as complete and even more so than the lesson that Brother, what do you call it, gave.
Well, then I certainly need to explore that before I teach it, don't I? One of the other things that you can do with this is you can, if you see in the census, if a census tells you where somebody lives, like maybe it says they live on Main Street, then you can use Google Maps to help you find Main Street, and you can see what's at that address now. And so I think that there are some other things that we can learn. And I need to study them more, but they were taught at Roots Tech this year. That's how I know about them, what I do know about them. And so if you really are interested, you might get ahead of me and watch them on Roots Tech yourself. But I think that those are some tools that I haven't used very much. I've used maps before, but I usually just went to the BYU library and looked up the maps. And so that I can do it by computer maybe is time saving. Maybe not as exciting as going to BYU library, but certainly more accessible than having to drive to BYU and find a parking place and wear a mask and all of the other things that go along with it.
You will love this feature that's, like I said, is already there. I found it by doing a little exploring after this guy gave us that lesson. Do you remember what that is, Diane? Did I talk to you about that?
Say again, do I remember what is?
The maps feature that's already in FamilySearch. If you sign on, it's up there in activities. Okay, go up to activities, Nancy. Click on, I think it's activities. All about compare. No, that's not it. Maybe it's the bottom one. The one that says, Picture My Heritage.
Well, Picture My Heritage has.
Oh no, that's not it either. But there's one in there. Maybe that's the wrong one.
Where am I from?
Yeah, there you go. Well, yeah, okay, and then you click 25, for example. There you go. You got all the people that you got listed, the cities they lived in, pictures of them, the states, and you can click on, you just click on that, go right down to the bottom thing of where everybody was, where they lived in the United States and even overseas. I'm sorry I was so excited about that. I thought I told everybody, but maybe I just told myself. But I thought this was.
Let's kind of go to one of these that I know a little bit about. Let's go up here to Illinois. Well, here's Indiana. Oh, Illinois. That's not Illinois. But I would like more than this to be able to see.
Click on that.
Maybe we need to play with it more. Maybe what you need to do is find how to enlarge it, because I'm wondering if she lives in one county and he lives in another county, how far away from each other did they live, and those kinds of things. And he bought all this land. Is it really a farm or is it in the middle of town? that kind of thing that I wanted to be able to look up. So,
Well, okay, but this is a great tool. It follows them. It can. I took my people out of Connecticut and watched them move west. And you've talked about moving through Kentucky and all those places.
and that's what I
this
call
will do that. I think
migration.
and you can go right. All right, so if you click on one of those, it'll give you information about any one of the people that you want to know about.
So how did you
okay.
get there again?
We went to activities.
Activities.
Where am I from?
Okay, cool.
And see, it takes you back to the 8th generation. So you can like.
Oh, see, you could click here on how many generations you want to go.
Yeah, and like you back up there in the Eastern United States. Yeah, see, you can go all the way back when before they migrated. And so it goes generationally back, and
So we're going to want to play with that and talk about that more next week.
yeah.
Very good. So I'm just going to conclude by saying, add more memories, ones that you didn't think that you maybe think about what can I add. I guess I just thought of one more thing I wanted to mention tonight. A bit of technology that is coming into practice now, and Angel is the one that I know of that has experimented with this, is in using a light box and taking a picture of something instead of scanning it with a scanner. And I think that that is technology that is going to become more and more used in the coming years. And the gadget that Angel uses is called Shotbox. And she's been very happy with it. She found out about it at Roots Tech and was so excited about it that she found the spare money so that she would be able to buy it.
Okay.
And
we had a conference to see if I could acquire it with my husband.
and the answer was okay. So realize that that's technology that's coming. But even if all we use is our phone, it is better to put in a picture, put in a scan, put in a story, than it is to think, well, it's not quite polished enough. I'm not ready to do it yet because I want it to be polished. And we should be aware that when these things happen, we take advantage of pulling out our camera, out our phone, and make a recording of what Grandpa is saying on Thanksgiving Day or similar situations. And we will find that this just enriches all of our lives. So that is my lesson today. And thank you all for coming. And Cindy, could you say our closing prayer today? I didn't have you say the opening prayer, did I?
No.
Okay.